that I think is important for you to understand, kind of given the opportunity that's in front of you right now, especially with the current climate that we're living in. And obviously do some Q&A at the end, but I'll kind of first set the stage by giving you some insight on my background and where I come from. I'm a former professional athlete, now author and entrepreneur, originally from Washington, D.C., grew up in a single parent household and moved around a lot as a kid when I was younger, which kind of exposed me to different types of people and allowed me to build a lot of relationships early on. Actually, Coach Blakely's nephew was one of my best friends growing up. Just for a little context, if you don't know how small DC is already, but for me, basketball really started as an escape more than anything else, and I kind of used the game just to take my mind away from certain struggles that I was going through, not only in my household but in the neighborhoods that I grew up in. And so I always imagined that one day, I could play at a high level and had this dream of becoming a professional athlete. But it wasn't until I kind of got to high school that I really started to take the game seriously and understand how competitive it was. And so, like Coach Ty said, I ended up going to Gonzaga with him and played there for 4 years. And I realized at that point how much work I really had to put in to even have that opportunity to become a pro. And so for the next 4 years, man, I just grinded. I just was never the most talented athlete, most athletic guy on the court, but I played my role and I did. And, throughout those 4 years, we won a lot. Obviously playing with guys like Coach Tyler and Coach Eric helped elevate my game. And that was ultimately what gave me the opportunity to get a Division I scholarship and go play at Niagara University. So I played there for about 3 years 3 years and went through a lot of ups and downs and had a lot of obstacles. Ended up actually getting sick my sophomore year, which was kind of an eye-opening experience. And it was like my first taste of realizing that, basketball wasn't going to be around forever and that I had to do other things outside of the game one day. And so, throughout those 3 years, I just kind of learned a lot about myself. And like I said, went through a lot of struggles and obstacles, but ended up transferring my senior year, kind of took a leap of faith, went out to California and went a level down. So I played NAIA school called Cal State San Marcos. Didn't know what I was going to get out of the opportunity. Kind of went out there just because I wanted a fresh start. And so, went out there and ended up having the best year I ever had playing basketball, actually. 32-2. I was All-American, NAIA All-American. Was Defensive Player of the Year. And so I won a bunch of accolades, and that was really the kind of the jump start for me having the opportunity to go play overseas. So that following year after I finished up college, went over to play in Japan. It wasn't really the experience that I thought it would be. First year playing pro, obviously you're going to go through a lot of obstacles on and off the court. But for me, it really didn't kind of encapsulate what I felt a professional athlete should be, or professional athletic experience should be. So I ended up leaving early, came back home. And that was like the first time that I was like without basketball in my life and didn't really know what to do next. So I ended up actually coming home early, working 2 jobs, all as a means to try to get back overseas. And I was working 2 jobs that I hated, wasn't happy, still working out, still grinding, trying to get back over the waters, and ended up having another opportunity to go play back in Japan that following year. So I went back over there and actually came in the middle of the season. So we had a big break and didn't really know the city, didn't know my teammates. We weren't playing any games. So I had a lot of time on my hands, a lot of time to reflect, a lot of time to think about what I had been going through as an athlete and kind of where my life was headed next. And so throughout that time, I just started to write. I started to kind of put out content and really kind of tell my story as an athlete and talk about some of the things that I had been going through. Long story short, I came back home that following year, ended up publishing my first book called Lessons from the Game, which really talked about my whole basketball journey and some of the key lessons that I took away from being an athlete. And so from there, that was the beginning of me starting to see myself as being more than just an athlete, starting to see the value that I can provide to the world and some of the other things that I can do without having that jersey on. And so that following year, I had another opportunity to go play in Morocco. And actually fell through 3 days before I was supposed to leave. And so that was the beginning of me kind of walking away from the game and trying to figure out my life going forward. And at this time, I was having a lot of conversations with other athletes, other guys who were still playing, some former guys as well, and just talking about how many athletes struggle with retirement and struggle with trying to figure out, their identity outside of being an athlete, outside of this box that they've been put in their whole life. And I noticed that I wasn't the only athlete thinking about this struggle. I wasn't the only athlete going through this experience where you kind of just don't know where to turn next. And so I wanted to have a platform to where athletes can come on and talk about their stories, some of the other things they were doing, and some of the struggles that come with being a professional athlete or even just a collegiate athlete. And so a couple years ago, I started a podcast. I've kept it going today, interviewed over 100 current and former athletes, called the Players Point Podcast, and really just providing a medium for guys to come on and talk about, like I said before, their experiences, their story, and some of the other things that you might not hear athletes are doing in retirement. And at the same time, I started a branding agency a couple years ago, which is kind of transformed it to be more of a consulting model company where, I've been able to kind of help athletes build their personal brands, kind of capitalize on the opportunity that they have as an athlete and really kind of take advantage of their influence and their platform more effectively. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, kind of been in this space where, I've just been empowering athletes, kind of giving them the blueprint education, and helping them learn from some of the mistakes that I've been through, and some of the things that I think are necessary for guys to really maximize their value and their platform that they have as an athlete, and even as a former athlete. And so, getting back to those 3 points that I really kind of wanted to touch on more than anything else, the first being that, what you do is not who you are. And I think that's so important for guys to really understand while they're playing, because a lot of times the world will kind of box you in. And now we're seeing more athletes kind of speaking out on social justice issues and certain things that are going on in the world. You're going to have people combat, the things that they want to speak out on, or say that, shut up and dribble, or, you shouldn't speak out on these things. You should just, stick to your sport. And so we hear a lot of this talk that athletes are, it's the only occupation where you see people actually kind of shun you for speaking out on things that are going on in the world, or for having an opinion and voicing, the things that you have a perspective on. And I think that's really disheartening, one. And I think that athletes need to really kind of take a step back and understand that you have so much more to offer to the world than just bouncing a basketball, throwing a football, and scoring touchdowns. And so it's really understanding that despite the world trying to put you in this box and confine you to be just one thing, you're a multitude of different talents and things that you can kind of contribute to the world. And I think that what really hits home for me when I kind of talk about this is when Kobe Bryant retired. I actually saw a video of him saying this. He said, what I did as an athlete was not who I am. And you think about, one of the greatest basketball players to ever play. This is somebody who didn't need to do anything else in retirement, or when he was done playing. He could have kicked his feet up and been done, but he saw himself as being way more than just being a basketball player. And that didn't kind of make up his whole identity. And so I think that, if one of the greatest basketball players that ever played a game was able to kind of step outside of that box and see himself as being more than just a basketball player, then we all kind of need to take a look at that introspectively and understand that one day we're going to have to hang it up. One day we're going to have to walk away. And, the things that the opportunity that we have right now in front of us as athletes, or opportunity that you have right now, you really have to take advantage of that. You have to understand that right now your focus is definitely basketball and school, but understand that you have other things that you're going to have to do in life or want to do in life. And right now is the time to start thinking about those things as well. And so I think that's really key when you understand where you're at right now as a college athlete, and even where you're going to be 4 or 5 years from now. The next being is to really squeeze this opportunity in front of you. You're playing at the Mecca, is one of the most prestigious HBCUs in the country, let alone universities. And so you have an opportunity to be in the spotlight as an athlete, and people want to meet you. People want to talk to you. People want to get next to you because you play a sport. And so I think it's really important for you to realize that, one, this opportunity doesn't last forever. This window of influence that you have right now, and people want to talk to you, people are going to take meetings with you, is something that a lot of people don't have. And so it's a unique experience being a student athlete and kind of being in the spotlight on campus. And I think it's really important for you to kind of take full advantage of that, especially being in this city, being in, Washington, D.C., which is, one of the most populated Black communities in the country. And so it's really getting out here and not just confining yourself to the athletic department, but meeting people on campus, talking to professors, networking with people, trying to get in that information beforehand so that you're more informed going forward in life. And, you can kind of navigate your career after sports better. And so it really goes back to just squeezing this opportunity as much as possible, understanding that you have a platform right now. And it's really important for you to kind of take a full advantage of that for your life going forward. The last thing I would kind of want to touch on is to really play the long game and don't jeopardize this opportunity for anybody or anyone. I think a lot of times, well, especially now where name, image, and likeness is coming up, and in a couple of years, you guys, or even next year, you guys are going to have the opportunity to kind of monetize your brands or take better advantage of the platform that you have as far as making money. I think it's really key to understand that there's going to be a lot of things thrown at you. There's going to be a lot of noise and a lot of people trying to get in your corner because you may have a lot of followers on social media, and they might see an opportunity to where, it's an incentive for them to kind of talk to, or an agent to get in front of you or try to talk to you and take advantage of you, or whatever the case may be. And so understand that, don't jeopardize this opportunity. Don't do anything that's going to, set you up for failure going forward in life, and really understand that, going back to that window of influence, that this is a very short period in your life, but you got to really take full advantage of every opportunity that you have in front of you and use it wisely, and don't jeopardize that opportunity for anybody or anything. And so, with that being said, I mean, that's really kind of what I wanted to touch on more than anything else. I think this is a really challenging time period that we're living in. And obviously, you guys are at the helm of it, being in the city, the nation's capital. So I would say that, man, just be wise with your platforms. Understand that, this opportunity is very special. And I'm in the process of publishing my second book, which is really highlighting, how athletes can take advantage of their personal brands and even monetize their platforms. So I think it's really important to understand that, on social media, just act accordingly, be very responsible, and do the right things. Do the right things online and offline, and ultimately just be prepared for whatever comes next.
Yo, quick question, Mr. Malcolm. What kind of, you already mentioned how you had helped other athletes who had, I guess, retired, stepped away from the game, use their platform or monetize their platform and stuff like that. What kind of things have different athletes done that you'd help with?
So mainly it's getting them to understand that, there's different ways to monetize your platform, but you got to understand the foundation of your brand. You got to understand, first and foremost, not only your following, but what you're trying to do long term. And so I think there's definitely a strategy that goes beforehand when you're trying to think about monetization. I've helped athletes set up their own e-commerce platforms. I've helped athletes, figure out ways they can monetize their websites for speaking opportunities or publishing or anything of that nature. Also sponsorship, endorsement deals. So there's a lot of things that can go into trying to make money with your brand, but there's also a lot of foundational elements that come well beforehand that you have to understand before you can even think about monetization. Because I think a lot of guys skip over those steps and want to get straight to like, how can I make money? How can I make money? But there's certain things that you got to do beforehand that's really key to building a sustainable brand and to be building a legacy that's going to carry you over into life after sports. Because there's obviously opportunities for guys going forward if you do the right things and kind of lay the groundwork up front.
And I'm sure for some guys, the transition is kind of hard, right? Because I think, especially for guys who play pro, and maybe some guys overestimate the longevity of their career. And do you kind of like coach them into, I guess, trying to find their fit in society where they're not an athlete?
So that's initially how I first started kind of get into this space. As I talked about with the podcast, that was really a medium for me to kind of help athletes talk about their experiences and talk about their other passions and kind of empower other athletes and educate other athletes on how to navigate that transition. I've kind of taken a navigate or kind of pivoted to be more of a personal branding strategy, just because I see with social media and technology and the opportunities that guys have during their careers, I think there's going to be a bigger focus on your brand and your brand equity being so important because of those things. And so I think that with the platforms that athletes have, and as I talked about before, just social media in general, being able to speak out on certain issues, being able to attract and partner with companies that align with their mission and their values and things of that nature. That's where I kind of saw the bigger opportunity, and then also with name, image, and likeness. So branding has been more of my focus and my specialty within the past couple of years because of those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Appreciate it.
What's up, Mr. Malcolm? You can hear me?
Yep.
So you said like in Japan, like it wasn't like your ideal professional experience. So like what like kind of happened like over there that didn't make it ideal or what you thought it was going to be?
So my first year over there, I got over there and they promised us the world. We were going to have a car. We were going to have, free living, all that stuff. Everything was supposed to be set up when we got out there. I got out there, and the first week car, we had to walk to practice, we had to walk to get groceries, we didn't get paid. So it was a really bad experience from a number of different perspectives. And I really didn't think it was a good opportunity to kind of start off my professional career, and I ended up leaving early, even though they still kind of told us, we were going to get paid and they promised us the world type thing. But for me, it just wasn't what I imagined the opportunity would be like. And there's a lot of guys who go through those type of obstacles, in their professional athletic career overseas, just because the laws are different, funding and things of that nature may change. So it just wasn't what I imagined a professional athletic career would have been like.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
Hey, Malcolm, I got two questions. First question, you talk about you started a podcast. Like, what's the process on starting your own podcast and obviously getting that published? And then second, you're in the process of you finished up your second book recently. Just kind of talk about that process for you as well. Just for our guys to kind of understand, like, they can do these things now. They can start writing their books, start creating what their podcast is going to look like, and put that out there. So can you kind of talk about those two things for me?
Yeah, for sure. So I think with the podcast, man, I honestly, I had no, aspirations to get into like interviewing radio or anything like that. I just felt like it was a good medium for me to build relationships with people, with other athletes and people in the sports industry. And so it's really as simple as, you could download the Anchor app and press record and start your podcast. If you really want to get into like, as far as like that's just the ease of the strategy, anybody can start a podcast nowadays and kind of get it uploaded on iTunes and Spotify and things of that nature, just because of the accessibility to the tools that we have. For me, I learned how to do it in a weekend, and in a week I was on iTunes and every podcast platform. But it's as easy as getting a microphone, understanding what topic the topic that you're talking about, and what makes you different from the thousands of other podcasts that are out there. Because everybody, a lot of people have podcasts nowadays, but I think if you really want to build a listenership and get people actually interested in your particular podcast, you have to understand why yours is different and why people will want to listen to it. So I think understanding that from a strategic perspective is really important. But the tools are really easy. And if you guys want to start a podcast, I highly recommend downloading the Anchor app and pressing record and really just talking about your thoughts or talking about things that you might be experiencing as an athlete. And that's an easy way to start, as far as like just trying to learn the process and learn what it takes to build a podcast up. And from a book publishing perspective, I had no formal training in writing besides, writing in English class in high school and college. But writing was something that I noticed came naturally to me. It was something that I was good at. And so that time, the time when I was overseas and I was kind of taking the time to really thinking about my experiences and things that I went through as an athlete, writing was therapeutic for me. It was a thing that I felt like if I wanted to communicate with the world, if I want people to kind of relate to me, it was the thing that I did best. So I started writing and learned the publishing process slowly but surely. Obviously, my first book wasn't a New York Times bestseller, but it kind of helped me kind of start that journey of becoming an author, what it means to become a writer and an author, and really kind of learn the process from a bird's eye view as far as, understanding before you even get to publishing, understanding the same things when I talk about a podcast. Why somebody would want to read your book? What are they going to get out of it? What are you even trying to get out of publishing a book? So I think the foundation of doing anything, publishing, media, anything of that nature, is really understanding why anybody would want to consume that piece of content from you, what value you're providing for that person. And then really just being, as I think another important key is to be consistent with it. For me, when I was writing, I would write every day. My first book, I was writing every day. Even the second book, I was trying to put in a couple hundred words every day and just be consistent and learn the process. And so that's what it podcast. I've been doing it for about 2.5 years and have just been as consistent as possible. Just putting out an episode every week. So I think there's a lot of different ways to kind of go about media, publishing, things of that nature. But there's also really key foundational elements that you got to understand to kind of get something out of this long term. Because books, podcasts are things that are going to live forever. So you want it to be obviously of quality and to get people to really resonate with the content that you're putting out.
And how did you go about marketing your podcast so you can grow a decent following?
So the thing I really tried to do is have people on who I know would be open to sharing. I think I try to utilize other people's audiences. It really, I think with another good thing with podcasts is creating micro clips, which is, you can have like an hour-long podcast, but you can break that down into smaller clips that you can use on social media. So it's the same thing with as I mentioned before, with consistency. So really just kind of putting out that content over a long period of time, but also utilizing another person's audience. So getting them to share it, sending those clips over to them, making sure they're sharing it, making sure, that podcast is getting put out into the world. So I would say those are the two biggest things. Try to utilize other people's audience, but also be consistent with your content and those micro clips that you might be putting out. And over time, people really, if you're good at it and people really like the content you're putting out, you'll slowly build a listenership. You're not gonna, hit top 10 on the charts in the first couple months, but maybe a year or two, you're going to slowly start to see your numbers going up because you're being consistent. You're providing that value to the audience, to the people that are listening to the podcast.
Appreciate that.
Hey, Malcolm, what's up, man? Thanks for being here.
What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Everything good with you?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there.
Awesome. Could you talk about the image and likeness, kind of stuff that's going to be coming down the pike next year for college students?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a lot of discussions that are going on, and obviously a lot of legislative laws that need to be kind of hashed out and voting that needs to be put in place and implemented before anything actually happens. So I think the biggest thing from a student athlete perspective is understanding that this is a new framework and a new world that we're all about to live in. And these changes are, obviously a lot of people are not going to be used to the social media brand deals and agents and advisors and managers now being in the mix as far as student athletes. So understanding that this has never been done before. And there's going to be, I think personally, there's going to be a lot of mistakes made. There's going to be a lot of challenges and concerns, obviously from a coaching standpoint, but also from a larger level athletic department standpoint. So for student athletes, I think the biggest thing is to stay informed on all these changes that are going on. Try to do your best to really understand that you're still not able to monetize your platform as of now. And these changes, even if they are taken to account, they won't probably take it to effect until July of next year. So really being cognizant of your social media, I think, is the number one thing for student athletes, is really understanding that your platform is going to be extremely valuable going forward. And I think I talked about this a little bit earlier. If you have a lot of followers on social media, I don't know what you guys' social media platforms look like, but there's not going to be a lot of people trying to prey on you or try to get in your corners because they see an opportunity for you to monetize their brand and for them to get a piece of that pie. So I would really understand that, your social media platforms are going to be extremely important going forward. And, nobody's expecting you to be perfect online, but be cautious and be conscious about the things that you're putting out into the world and that the messages you're sending, because people are watching now, but going forward, they're going to be watching even closer. So there's going to be a lot of new changes. Obviously, like I said, a new framework that's going to be put in place in a new world that I don't think anybody is really going to be ready for yet. And my book my upcoming book kind of talks about some of the things that, key tactics and strategies that platforms aside from the monetization piece. But I think it's really important to kind of get that education now and understand how important going forward your brand is going to be, not only as an athlete, but in the real world whenever you're done playing.
Thank you for that, Malcolm.
For sure, Coach.
I got a question, Mr. Malcolm. Where can we find the books that you're talking about?
So it's going to be available on Amazon July 21st. And you can get on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
Appreciate it.
And I'll probably also send out some copies to you guys for free as well. So
appreciate that.
So how was the transition from the point when you realized that you couldn't be, or not that you couldn't be, but basketball was kind of, in the back seat. So how was that transition, like mentally, not more so like you actively going out and doing different things, but what was the mental transition like?
So for me personally, it was really difficult because I've obviously been playing basketball for 20 plus years of my life. Every season was basketball year round. So for me mentally, it was a major adjustment that I had to make to kind of acclimate myself to a new fresh start, and not really knowing how to go about that transition and knowing where to turn. And I think that's probably the hardest thing for most athletes, is the mental part, is really kind of getting yourself out of the mindset that, I'm not going to be playing this upcoming season. I don't have to go to the gym and work out like I used to. And so it's such a major change from a mental perspective. And I think that was the biggest part that I struggled with. It was really kind of figuring out those next steps. And I think a big key is to have a mentor, to have somebody kind of guide you through that process who's been there before and understands what you're going through. For me, I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have nobody to kind of tell me, what to do next or how to do something. So even though I understood that one day, I wasn't going to be playing basketball forever, but knowing that and not having a game plan, or understanding that and not having a game plan is extremely hard to do. And I would say it's probably the biggest challenge that I've faced. One of the biggest challenges that I faced in my life.
And and how do you use your experience that you took from you playing pro ball overseas into how you live now? Like, for someone who doesn't, obviously you're not actively physically competing, like, against other bodies. It's not about who's working out more or who's going to be first in the sprints, because, you're not playing ball anymore. So, but what would you say that maybe some of the lessons you learned overseas, or even in your college ball experience that you still use today?
I would say everything, man. I think that a lot of times athletes don't realize that a lot of the skills that you learn during your time playing sports are all things that's going to transfer over into the real world, from being able to work with people from different backgrounds and experiences as you, and being in a team setting, to you know being self-motivated, to being organized, to having time management, to being, a leader. All these different qualities and traits that you learn on the court are going to be the same things that are going to allow you to be successful in the real world. And those transferable skills, I think, are the biggest key, and why, you see so many athletes that are successful in business. Once they figure out what they want to do and they got to set their mind to it, it's the reason why they're so successful, because they've taken all those intangibles and they've just applied it to a new arena. And so it's the same mindset. It's just you're playing a different ball game. And I think that's what you got to really understand, is everything that you're learning right now, everything that you're taking away from basketball, it's going to be the same things that allow you to be successful going forward in life. And it's key. It's really key. It's more the mindset more than anything else.
And I just have one more question. Oh, my bad, Coach.
Go ahead. You got it, Isaac.
Yeah, I just have one more question. When it comes to you looking back on where you were, when you were playing ball in college, more so in college, not necessarily in the pros, what would you tell yourself, or how would you rate the importance of knowing who you are without basketball in the equation?
How would I rate it?
Yeah, in terms of what would you say to yourself in college to let you know that basketball is a huge part of your life, as I'm assuming it's a big part of everybody's lives in this call right now. But how would you, if you were to go back and tell yourself, what you learned now in terms of knowing your identity without basketball, what would you say?
That's a good question. I would probably tell myself probably to start thinking about it now as opposed to later. So I think that when you're playing basketball, you're playing a sport, you have obviously this tunnel vision because you want to be successful in it. But even when you're not playing basketball, you still do other things with your life. You're not on the court 24/7. And so it's looking at the things that you might be reading, or the things you might be researching, or things you might be talking about, and understanding that if those are my interests, those are the things that I might want to do with my life going forward. And so that I need to start attaching those to my identity, attaching those to my mindset, or at least start thinking about that, or putting that in the back of your mind that, I have other passions and I'm not just this athlete. And so it's having that tunnel vision, but also having the foresight to understand that even though basketball is my number one focus, I still want to do these other things. I still like these other things. And in my spare time, I might be able to take advantage of these other things. And so I would just tell myself to understand that don't just be stuck in that box that people try to put you in. Don't try to just be an athlete and kind of live up to that stereotype. Whatever it is you want to do, whatever else you're interested in, start acting on those things right now. And then also build relationships with people who aren't athletes, because you get a bigger perspective on the world. You get open to new experiences and new ways of thinking, and it kind of challenges the way that you've been thinking your entire life as an athlete. So I would say build those relationships and understand that whatever it is that you want to do or that you're interested in outside of basketball, at least start putting that in your mind right now and attaching those things to your identity and who, what makes you as an individual.
I appreciate that. I know I had a lot of questions, but I appreciate you.
No, you good. You good, bro.
Malcolm, what was for you a typical day like when you was hooping overseas?
So I would say my second year was kind of the stretch when I was over there the longest. And even though I came in the middle of the season, we had probably like a month and a half break where we weren't playing any games. We were just practicing for maybe an hour or two a day. You just got a lot of time on your hands. Even when you're playing, you might have a game once or twice a week. you practicing, you know, an hour or two a day, you got a lot of time on your hands. So I think that being a professional athlete overseas, obviously that's your job, and that's the thing that's you know, that's how you make your money, your livelihood. You have a lot of time on your hands to do other things, and I think a lot of guys waste that time. They don't use that time wisely. So for me, like I said, I was using that time to kind of think about who I was and what I wanted to do going forward. And if basketball wasn't in the picture, what would my life look like? And so that was kind of a typical day for me. Baby, wake up, make breakfast, go to practice, come back home. We might have another practice or like a walk through an afternoon. And then, you know, you got the rest of the day to yourself to kind of do however you please.
Yeah, so like during this time, like for people like us, like young student athletes and stuff like that, I know we haven't experienced a lot, you know, so far in our life because we're not grown yet. We haven't paid bills or nothing like that. But like, what's the biggest impact that we can make on society, like in a time like this, with the Black Lives Matter stuff and all that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, obviously that's a question that's probably better suited for the coaches because I don't know some of the restrictions or rules they might have in place. But my opinion on it is that, you know, you see a lot of professional athletes who are taking a stand, who are out here marching with the people, who are speaking out on social media. And, you know, I even wrote about this in my book. You know, I have a chapter that's specifically dedicated to athletes speaking out on social justice issues and what that looks like. And so our first thing is to be really educated on what's going on in the world. You know, a lot of times, you know, we even see on social media, like somebody get canceled because they say some stupid shit. And, you know, now everybody's jumping down their throat and attacking them because they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the levity of what they're saying. And so I think it's when you're passionate about change and about social justice issues and civil rights or whatever the case may be, you have to be informed and educated on the topic before anything else, and know about the nuances, know about, you know, everything that's happening, so that when you are speaking out, you're making an informed decision. You're being responsible with your platform and using it wisely. Because everybody has an opinion nowadays. Anybody can say anything, but are you actively saying something that's educating the people, that's actually making sense, that's actually reflecting of the brand that you're trying to portray to the world? So it's to first be educated on everything that's going on. And then two, for me, it's that, you know, if you feel strongly about something, especially as an athlete with a strong platform, I always tell athletes to speak out on it. I always recommend that, you know, if you believe in something and if you stand behind something and you feel it's the right thing, speak out on it. You know, say what you feel, say what you mean, and stand behind that 100%, because you might be met with some criticism. You're obviously going to get a lot of hate. People are going to be in your DMs sending you hateful messages, or, you know, speaking their opinions or refuting the things that you might be saying, or your perspective on a certain topic. But at the end of the day, you're going to live with yourself because you spoke out on that thing. You believed in everything that you stood for. And you know, I think perfect examples is like Muhammad Ali back during the civil rights movement. Like, people bashed him and criticized him and ostracized him because he spoke out on things that weren't popular and that a lot of black people weren't really speaking out on during the time because they were fearful. And I think this time is kind of reminding me of you know, that time is reminding me of everything that's going on right now, because, you know, you have athletes speaking out and, you know, they're not caring what people say, and they're comfortable because they understand the ramification of their actions. So if you understand, if you're informed about the topic and you truly believe in it, speak out and really voice your opinion, because you have that right in this country. And, you know what I'm saying, and you're going to be able to sleep with yourself at night knowing that you did the right thing despite what anybody else may feel about it.
Got you.
I'm Jake, one of the coaches, but I know as we get older, we get more mature and wiser. Do you have any like habits that you could recommend for our younger guys, or just guys in general, anybody on this call, to kind of develop early to start, like kind of what Isaac was saying, things to do to start thinking about basketball or after basketball when their careers are over? Just some good habits to develop off the court to get them going and doing things?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think habits work differently for different people. I think that it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. I think to Isaac, where I said, you have this time off of the court. You're obviously not practicing or not playing games you're every day, all day, but you have this time away from the game. So I think a good habit is to start at least reading or researching things that you might be interested in or you might want to explore, in life after basketball. I think that's really key. And a lot of athletes, they don't use their time wisely. And I'm not saying that you got to be productive or doing something that's conducive to being successful all day, but at least take, a couple minutes out of your day. If you want to get into investing in stocks, like start reading up on that. If you think you might want to get into media or marketing, start reading up on that. So it's really using your time wisely away from the court and understanding that, you're slowly building up kind of a foundation of habits that are going to help you going forward in life. And understanding that everything is like compound interest. It's like those little things that you do daily are going to add up to the success that you see long term. It's the same thing on the court. Like the workouts that you do every week are just adding up. You're just getting a little bit better. So it's the same thing with like reading and researching and thinking about, the things that you might be interested in outside of basketball.
Malcolm, what are some of the books that really influenced and touched you?
I would say that. So when I started to read a lot when I was overseas as well, and particularly I was really interested in investing in money because I knew I didn't have a strong. Obviously, they don't teach financial literacy in school. It's not something that was really stressed in my household or something that I learned early on. But I knew I was like, if I'm want to be successful, I want to make money one day. I'm gonna have to learn how money works. So I started reading a lot of financial literacy books, and the first book that I think I read overseas was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is one of the most prominent financial literacy books out there. So I would say that's definitely one. The Richest Man in Babylon was another really good book that I read. Let me see. The Four Agreements was another really big book that I read. 48 Laws of Power. Let me see. How to Win Friends and Influence People is another really good book that talks about building relationships and how to connect with people. That was another, instrumental book. So I really try to diversify my reading and read books that, are popular, but also read books that people might not really know. Because I think that when you read content that a lot of people may not read, you begin to think differently than a lot of people think. And I think that's really important in life when you're trying to be successful. So there's several different books that I can recommend. I'm always trying to look for new books, always trying to read, always trying to learn and grow.
Malcolm,
Yo, what's up, B?
what's up? What's up? Hey, question for you. How do you describe success?
For me personally, I think success is doing what you want, when you want, how you want, and being happy. Simple as that.
How was it playing with Eric and Tyler?
You broke up for a second there. What did you say?
I was saying, how was it playing and growing up with Eric and Tyler?
Good experience, man. I mean, obviously they were top level talent. I think I alluded to it earlier. I think I attribute a lot of my success on the basketball court to playing with those guys just because of how competitive they were and how seriously they took the game. So I think, I learned a lot from them. And I even had the opportunity to play against Eric in college and just seeing the way that they progressed and how they approached the game of basketball it made a big impact on my career. Not only as a college athlete, a high school athlete, but as a professional, in the way that, I talked about before, just getting to high school and realizing how competitive the game is, how many people want to play and how many people are actually capable of playing at a high level. It was extremely eye-opening for me. And even just playing with DC Assault and that whole experience was probably one of the most, the greatest experiences that I really cherish today. And so it was good, man. It was cool. Obviously they still friends of mine today, and really cherish the experiences and the things that we went through together.
So when y'all played ones, who used to win?
I ain't gonna even hold you. I used to bust their ass. Honestly, I don't even think I played Eric one-on-one before.
See,
I think me and Ty probably split.
But you got you on you versus Eric.
Oh yeah, I'm too strong for that. Eric, that's post work all day.
Tyler Nee, you got nothing to say?
Oh, they quiet.
I ain't got nothing to say. Malcolm, that's my brother. That's my brother. I appreciate you coming on and talking to the fellas, man. Like I said, he'll be around. He's been around. He really supports the program, and he wants you guys to, like he said, maximize where we are in this moment. And like he said, be prepared for what's to come next. Because some of the things that are going on, some of the changes that are happening. 10 years ago, we were just graduating from high school and going through our college process, and things have changed dramatically, from 2010 to 2020. And you guys are in the mix at the perfect time to change a lot and be a part of the change for the future. So, me and Malcolm can run the ones, and y'all could check that out, and we can see what we talk about now. Now at the old guy table.
Malcolm, man, thank you. Go ahead, Malcolm. Sorry.
No, I was
no,
gonna
man.
say,
Thank you.
I ain't picked up a rock in about a month, man, but we can run the ones for sure.
No, man, that'd be great. We'll put it on pay-per-view. We'll stream it.
All right, let's do it.
Appreciate you, man, and your family, dude, and we've known each other for a while, and it's good to see you. The work you're doing is wonderful, and I'm super proud of you, man, and the way you're handling your business and conducting shit. So keep up the great work, man, and anything we can do for you on our end, please don't hesitate.
I appreciate the opportunity, Coach. Appreciate it, Ty.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, fellas, just real quick, with the stuff we talked about before, if you guys have some thoughts and some ideas, just shoot them in our group text on the WhatsApp joint. And I'd love to start to work on that as soon as possible to get Notre Dame also working on that and see if we can have an impact on this thing moving forward. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks, fellas. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll catch you soon, all right?
Dev,
Yeah.
you got your email yet, bro?
Hell nah.
Man, Howard don't want me to go there, man. I ain't got no email yet. Man. I'm about to go to prep school, JUCO or something. Sound like.
All right. Gotta talk to Big Jake about that.
You said what?
Gotta talk to Jake about that, man.